passe. Oh, l'artiste. Super, encore un but sensationnel. That's a brilliant bit of follow-up play by Mahe. Oh my goodness me, what a shot.
Sagosen setter det hen! Han setter den! De er i semifinale igjen!
Hello everyone and welcome to the Uniformed Handball Hour. Chris here, joined by Alex, and the World Championship is barely a couple of weeks old and all the headlines are piling up on the club handball front, which means we're recording with Alex about to hit the slopes of Vermont, and he took some time out of his busy schedule to talk about some big transfers, contract extensions and doping news. Alex, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Actually expecting, so we're going out skiing today, which should be fine, and it's going to start snowing in the evening and basically snow until Monday. 17 inches of snow expected over that time period. So there's a real chance might be snowed in, but there's also a great chance that the skiing is going to be class. So let's see. Let's see if we make it out of Vermont and Smuggler's Notch in due time. Smuggler's
Notch. What a great name that. Well, good that we can smuggle a few minutes with you to chat. Sagosen, Martins, Gidsel, all the headlines to look at here.
I want to start with Gidsel because it would be obvious to say that Sander Sagosen's transfer to Aalborg is kind of the biggest transfer news of the last couple of weeks. But I think Gidsel's extension in Fuchse Berlin until 2029 with his slightly upgraded contract from I think 500 to 600,000 euro a year is a big statement from both Gidsel and Fuchse Berlin. And I think it's I don't know how they managed to do it, but they've managed to keep Mathias Gidsel for the next 4 years. And it's just a huge statement of intent from Fuchse Berlin, who also have now been linked to Putlik and Gergic, some big names to support him. They've obviously made him a promise that we're going to get you some help. I think that's just huge, and it's pretty exciting for Berlin.
Big statement of intent to get him to extend his contract. I think if anything, it's until 2029. It's not always a guarantee with a contract that he will be there until 2029, but it does give Berlin some extra security as well, so that if anyone does want to come after him, they're going to have to pay big money for it. But like that, combined with the potential to bring in someone like Pitlick, shows that they are definitely intent on sticking around, which suggests something has changed a little bit in the club as well, because they've often talked about them not quite having enough money to be able to, to bring in players, when they were a little bit short over the summer, with Drux leaving as well. There was talk about, well, actually they can't really afford to bring anyone in to fill the gap. So perhaps something has changed in that regard. I wonder if there's been some new investment.
Yeah, there was news of another major sponsor that's been secured for Fuchse Berlin. I think it is one of their main sponsors that's kind of extended their sponsorship to be like a platinum sponsor or whatever. I've had a look into it, but I couldn't quite find the details of, and if it was someone kind of external that's come in. But either way, they've managed to secure a big sponsor and secure their future. I think that's already evident because, they have made a few signings in Leo Prattner coming in, Aitor Reno coming in on the left wing as well next season. So straight away they kind of bolstered their wings, which they really, really value. They have a lot of fantastic wings now, and a couple of just back players. But I also think that all of this is just related to Flensburg absolutely fumbling the bag by getting rid of Nikolai Krikow, because that was the rumor mill was flipped just 6 months ago, because there was news coming out that Flensburg really wanted to bring Gidsel in to play with Putlik in Flensburg, and with Nikolai Krikow gone, I think that's definitely destabilized the Danish contingent in Flensburg. Don't think Putlik was too happy about it. Gidsel was not going to move to Flensburg then, and it was seriously, like, if they get Putlik and Gidsel in the same team, they could be unstoppable. It's just Denmark.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a really exciting prospect of that. And they, I feel probably a role in it as well as the financial aspect is the kind of proof that they are able to contend on a couple of fronts. So now that they've broken into the Champions League, they're contending there quite well, and also, staying in amongst the top of the Bundesliga. Like, that has to be part of the promise made as well, that, like, we're a team that are going to be in the top 2 in Germany every season, getting that Champions League spot, as well as being able to contend for it. Because, we spoke about it just a couple of weeks ago after the World Championship. Like, Gidsel now, for the first time, will be like in a run-in for a Champions League title with Berlin. So I feel like that probably has a part to play in terms of taking that extra step of commitment. Now that they showed, okay, we can do it at this level, we can compete in both Bundesliga and Champions League. Now we also have to build a squad for that as well, and with that comes having to spend a little bit more money. But yeah, nice contract for Gidsel as well. Nice round €50,000 per month. And he, definitely deserves it. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I follow Gidsel on Instagram, and he's really funny because he's just a real regular dude on Instagram, and a lot of the content he was posting was him refurbishing his new apartment in Berlin and putting in so much love and effort, like exposing beams, painting walls. So, like, when those rumors that, is Gidsel leaving, the guy is very comfortable in Berlin. He loves it there. And in kind of a long interview he did as well, he was talked about how much he loves being anonymous in Berlin, that he is just, in a major city, can walk around and no one knows him. And I think it was referring to those Flensburg rumors, because he wouldn't be able to do that in Flensburg. And I think if there's a top club that's committed and giving you a nice salary in Berlin, it's probably a nicer place to live for a 25-year-old than Flensburg in the north of Germany on the border with Denmark. So he's very comfortable there. It's going to be really exciting to see just how much he can achieve there, because I'm willing him to have this major legacy. And, we're watching one of the best players ever already at the international stage, but there's just that step he needs to make at the club stage as well.
And we know of his passion for DJing as well, as Brian Campion followed him around with a camera for a little EHF feature. So no better place as well to pursue his DJing career.
Wait, what? Give me a bit more about DJ Gidsel.
Well, did you not see that? It was the EHF. Brian went. It was around Match of the Week, and he went with him and followed him around. And he has a passion for DJing as well. I don't know if he has a SoundCloud, Alex, but
is there as part of his deal a multi-year contract with Berghain as well? Are we going to see Mathias Gidsel in full leather DJing through the night? It might affect his performance, but he does. It's on the Dare to Rise mini documentary, where it's a little bit about him being a DJ, and he does have a. I just put in Mathias Gidsel into Google here, and there is also a link to his Spotify as well, and it's him. No way. He
has 22 public playlists, and 272 followers. And he has a World Championship 2025 playlist. Oh, wow. Oh, we're really...
what's in there?
Let's have a look. He has a bit of Fred again, Dos Santos, 911 by Omar and Tobias Rahim.
Oh, Tobias Rahim.
A bit of David Guetta, Titanium, featuring Sia. Okay. A lot of Danish songs as well. Yeland by Tobias Rahim. And
okay, that's his passion.
So he is. Oh, and Mr. Brightside by the Killers. Danny California from Red Hot Chili Peppers. This is not an avenue I thought I'd be going down here with so much to go through in so little time. But yeah, there is Mini Gidsel is his user on Spotify. So if you want to hear what led the Danish team to World Championship victory, you can access his VM World Championship 2025 playlist.
Amazing. Other big news, of course, and you mentioned it, a little bit bigger than this new breaking story that Mathias Gidsel is a DJ, is that Sander Sagosen is an Aalborg player with immediate effect. That was announced a little bit earlier in the week, with Johan Flink actually breaking the news before Aalborg announced it. And I think it's a big reaction to the absolute travesty that Sagosen and Norwegian team faced in the World Championship, at a home championship, with so much criticism from the Norwegian people on the Kolstad project. I think Sagosen was definitely talking to Aalborg for a little bit longer than, or way before the World Championship, but the decision to just beeline out of Norway had to be impacted by just the disaster of a January that the Norwegian national team and Sagosen himself had. Yeah,
and it's interesting to connect it back to Gidsel. You said there that he enjoys playing in a city where he can be anonymous, that nobody knows him. And I think that there's a little bit of that sentiment coming from Sagosen as well. He spoke to TV2 in Denmark during the week, and he said, I needed to find a place in a club where I can just be a handball player and have fun and not have to do much else at the same time. And elaborating on that, he said, like, in Kolstad, there was just too much responsibility for different things that he took upon his own shoulders, that it was his mistake that he did in terms of having to have an opinion on everything and get involved in everything. And of course, he will be well known in Aalborg, but at least here he gets to focus on playing for a club where everything is running smoothly and he just has to be a handball player. And I think that is something that we probably haven't considered as a factor in this whole Kolstad project in terms of what kind of impact it would have had on him. You know, going back to his hometown where he is a superstar, having the social and family life, and also having to not just be a player, but also be like the face of this project. And so that, in a sense, maybe gives me a little bit of a bit more confidence in him, because you might just look at how he's been playing recently, the last couple of years he's had, and as some people in our own Discord have said, why would you sign him now? He's finished. But maybe there is a little bit more nuance to that.
Yeah, he's 29 years old. Like, he's at the peak of his physical powers. Well, he should be. Obviously, the injuries that he's sustained over the last couple of seasons have impacted him. The pressure of Kolstad obviously has impacted him, and he said himself that it's really for handball reasons that he's making the move, that he feels like his handball has stagnated by going to Kolstad, and he needs to be in a club that pushes him, and that is what Aalborg is. It's still the Danish league. It's a good league, better than standard, top to bottom, than Norway, without quite the intensity of the Bundesliga. It's a familiar place. He only spent 3 seasons in Aalborg. I really felt that he had a longer runway there. If it was just where he made his name, I think he rose to the top of handball while he was there for those 3 seasons. I kind of, it was a little bit of a surprise to me. I really felt that he was there for a long time and developed as a player in Aalborg for a long time before getting to the top. But he's only there for 3 seasons. It's not... he's had a long journey, PSG and Kiel afterwards. It's Aalborg are a top club. He's going to get an opportunity to kind of slot in. It'll be really interesting to see what the way he fits into this season with Alex Vla still there, Thomas Arnoldson, and Miguel Martins coming back after, as you said, a negative B sample. So very unfortunate for Miguel Martins to miss the historic World Championship for Portugal, but he's back. So that there's a lot of players there that he can just be one of them for now, get used to the system, and then it's going to be really exciting next year when Yuri Knorr comes, and you're going to have Yuri Knorr and Sander Sagosen on the court together, which is a real tantalizing prospect. It could be wonderful. It could be really dynamic, exciting, or it could be a big failure. Like that is, Aalborg have gone for a couple of big names, and that hasn't worked for them too well in the past, I would say. Being that pluckier, more dynamic team with a lot of very good players is what led them to kind of the Champions League final, and what's been happening this season where they've been fantastic when they did invest in those big names like Mikkel Hansen coming at a stage of a career where he wasn't at the very top. They actually went down. They lost the Danish league for a couple of seasons. So there's risks there for Aalborg, but I still think Sander Sagosen is a great player, and if he can physically get back to where he was, I think that's the important part, and that's the big question, because it just doesn't look like he's the same dynamic player he was. Either way, he can make a big impact there.
Making that decision to go now to Aalborg also suggests that he has what it takes, and he wants to make it work again. He's not like he could have just kind of faded away a little bit in terms of being a Kolstad player and just accepted, okay, this is where I'm at now. I'm going to stay here for a couple more years and then, even retire at the age of 31 or 32. But now he's made a massive commitment, 4.5-year contract to Aalborg, and a place where he is also like, you mentioned he was only there 3 seasons, and there as like a late teen, early 20s. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame at the end of those 3 years. Like, this is the massive, massive impact he had there. So he is going back where he has to also kind of defend that legacy. And I think it'll suit him very well being another player in the team rather than like having to be the superstar. Because I think the expectation has dropped in that sense with him. Like, he's joining a club where he is going to be sharing the court with the likes of Arnoldson, who's like the main man now after having such an impact over the last couple of seasons, and with Denmark. And Landin, he's got Mulgaard in there with him, like a lot of experienced, wise heads who know how to also look after themselves. So I think it could be a really good environment for him to be in. So that really does excite me, and I agree with you. There is no reason why he can't get back to being at a certain like really high level over the next couple of years. We've kind of made the mistake in the past of just assuming because the player's getting older that they'll never get back to the same form, but we've definitely learned that lesson that yes, players can rediscover themselves at this age.
Yeah, and for Aalborg as well, they've picked Simon Dell as their head coach. I don't think we've mentioned that yet, that they've kind of gone for an internal hire. They haven't gone for a superstar head coach. Henrik Molgaard currently the assistant coach, but will move on to PSG, of course, next season with Stefan Mattsson. But Aalborg have steadied the ship in terms of their direction as a team. They want to keep their style. They don't want to change the atmosphere that we talked about in the squad, and it's working for them. They got a huge win against Barcelona in the Champions League, 36-35 in the end, and it was really dramatic, but they looked really good. Sagosen, of course, can't play in the group stage of the Champions League because he played with Kolstad, but he will be available for the playoffs. So, we're talking about immediate impact coming from Sagosen this season.
For next season, Henrik Kronberg will join as the assistant coach, and he is the Denmark national team assistant coach as well. A player or a coach who has quite a big profile in Danish handball. So that is another kind of, I think, a good sign in terms of steadying the ship coaching-wise, to have someone like him come in and be the assistant. Just quickly on Kolstad, because they've kind of responded by, showing a bit of forward thinking. They've extended the contract for Simon Lisa. They've extended the contract for the coach as well, and a couple of other players. Like they, I guess, are trying to prove a point that they're not just going to fall apart now because Sagosen is leaving. They're not giving up. I'm guessing they got a transfer fee, seeing as his contract was bought out, and that probably opens up a bit of budget for them as well. They too had a big win over the week. Could it, in a weird way, also be a good move for them?
I think the reason why they are happy to do so is because of the rise of Simon Lisa. Like, he's not the best player in the world. I don't think he has that superstar potential, but he is a very good player that has kind of taken over from Sagosen in the team already, and I think they were just happy to say, okay, he's our guy. And they still, Goran Sugor is still there. He's still a good player. Simon Jepsen has done really well for them. They have a good squad. And
Andreas Palika joining next season.
And, I think the contract that Sagosen was on in Kolstad was in the region of 800,000 to $1 million a year. That was the initial contract. That's what was reported. I think that was slashed in half when Kolstad started having their financial issues. So I think that was definitely slashed. But we're talking about a huge bill coming off Kolstad's wage list, and giving them a little opportunity to kind of shift around their squad. Like, Christian Berge is their coach. They've committed to him until 2030, so they have a very good coach, and I think they've just accepted that we're not going to go for like winning the Champions League in a couple of years, which was their initial plan. We're just going to have a very solid team that's going to compete in the Champions League, aim to win the Norwegian League every year, and kind of gradually grow, which is also a fine strategy. And they're well in the Group B of the Champions League.
Yeah. What a group that's turning out to be. My God.
It's incredible. That day of handball on Wednesday was just fantastic. So we had that Aalborg win against Barcelona. Big upset, dramatic game. We'll get into that a little bit. Kolstad beat Nantes by 1 goal as well. And Zagreb beat Szeged by 1 goal. So you had kind of 3 underdogs.
And Magdeburg winning away against Kielce.
Magdeburg winning, like the corpse of Magdeburg, the few players that they have left, including Felix Klar, who did come back and steer them to victory, which is really big for them. But it's a great day of handball. But let's just dive into that Aalborg Barcelona game a little bit, because that was a crazy game. Aalborg really ran through Barcelona in the first half. I think there's 23-18 at halftime. Could have been more. Like, they were unstoppable. Barcelona then kind of really came back in the second half, led by DKM and Luis Frade, who's just becoming a really, really good player after all my criticism. And then the end was just drama. Nicolas Landin first saving a penalty with about 1 minute to go. Then the referees got really involved, giving 2 quite harsh penalties to Barcelona. One they scored, and the second one in the last second stopped by Nicolas Landin against Melvin Richardson at the buzzer. Nicolas Landin is like, okay, remember me? I'm pretty good. Yeah. I'm still pretty good. 15 saves for him. It was a great game.
Yeah. 15 saves from 49 shots faced as well, which is really astonishing, and that kind of says a lot about the type of game it was in a 36-35 win. But the first win for Aalborg against Barca as well, which I think is a big statement for them. They came so close last season in that Champions League final, but like a proper entertaining game between two teams that I think generally do pride themselves on some good defense and clearly good goalkeeping as well, but that went completely out the window in that match. And for Aalborg it's a great victory, but for Barca it feels like the first time in a long time that they're actually looking quite fallible in the group phase. Now it's 1 draw and 2 losses. It's not an absolute disaster for them, and they're still favourites to finish first in the group. But they're not a country mile ahead of everyone else, which is how it's generally felt in the group phase.
Yeah, no, they're struggling without a playmaker. I don't know how they've let it get this bad, because they have been playing Melvin Richardson there. Petr Jakusa got injured, so they've lost him as a option on that playmaker position. They Ortega just doesn't trust Domen Makuc, even when they were really struggling in that game. He only got a few minutes, so he's not really part of the at least the Champions League squad. I think he does play in Spain, but just doesn't trust them. And okay, the attack wasn't the issue. They still scored 35 goals, so it still worked. DKM was fantastic. Timothy Engason also just dusting off his boots after not being at the World Championship. And so they're still good, but it feels like it's not a fully complete team at the moment. And yeah, defensively they were an absolute disaster in that first half. They just couldn't handle Aalborg's speed. That could be, heavy legs when you look at the Barca squad that played. DKM was in the final weekend. Luis Frade was in the final weekend. Melvin Richardson.
Thiago Petrus playing quarterfinals as well.
Final weekend. Emil Nielsen had an injury scare. So he pulled up with what looked like a calf injury or something, but that was definitely just his body saying, slow the fuck down. It was like, stop. I've been going for too long, too much over the last few months. Slow down. I don't think I don't think anything's been specifically announced on the injury, but I don't think it's anything too dramatic. I think it is just quite literally Emil Nielsen's body telling him to chill out. He didn't have a great game at all. Still got 10 saves, but at that pace.
There were times during that game as well, like the frustration on his face, and it wasn't necessarily with his own goalkeeping, but also with the defense. Like there were times, even after some saves, where he's just looking at the men and he's like seriously, are you letting them take those shots? It is. Of course, it might feel like over dramatizing a little bit with Barca, but usually it's the post World Championship, a post-Euro phase where Barca really start to ramp it up. And that's what it maybe concerns me a little bit about it, because usually that's when they start to make the statement of, okay, we are the best team. this season. And if they all of a sudden lose at home to Kielce next week or away to Szeged, then and lose that top spot to Aalborg, then maybe there's a little bit more fear when you consider that you've got the Sporting or Fuchse Berlin potentially waiting in a quarter-final. Then you might start to get worried a little bit if you're a Barca fan, but no need to panic just yet. But who do you think will progress then from Group B? Because it's like a 4-horse race now for 5th and 6th place, with Magdeburg on 9 points, Kielce and Kolstad on 8 points each, and then Zagreb, who picked up an away win, as we mentioned, against Szeged, on 6 points, with the post-World Championship boost as well. Are one of the two big teams going to drop out, do you reckon? The two big teams, I'm saying, Kielce and Magdeburg.
I think one of them's going to drop. I think Kolstad or Zagreb are going to do something. It feels like it. Kielce were not impressive against Magdeburg. I think Magdeburg themselves are just so injured at the moment that these games are going to stack up. They don't have a right back. Like they've gone out to try sign someone to fill the gap while Lagergren and Magnussen are out. There's a real chance that it was a huge win for them against Kielce. Kielce not looking impressive. It's really hard to predict, but I think that there is going to be a shock at the bottom of that group.
The fixture list suggests that as well. Like for Kielce, we mentioned a few minutes ago, they play Barca next away from home. Then they've got Nantes at home, which screams an away win for Nantes. And then final game day, Zagreb at home to Kielce. That could be the decider then. That's a proper match of the week, round 14, a miracle in Zagreb type game that I've been to a few times over the last 10 years.
Yeah. It's really set up for pretty exciting. And again, you have this jostling for places, which is important, as you mentioned. You want to avoid kind of the better teams on the other side of the group, which is also like the middle spots in Group A are the ones to fight for. Veszprem are sailing away with that group, continue to just be very, very solid and very impressive. And then it's kind of between Sporting, Fuchse Berlin and PSG. And you could say that there's not much between these teams. Each one of them could get a win anytime. But I think for them, getting into that second spot is going to be pretty big. PSG, of course, losing to Wisla Plock, which is a big surprise.
I did that game on Thursday, PSG and Wisla Plock. It was a shocker for PSG, like the defense non-existent. When you have Valam Pelika and Matthew Grabil as your centre block, you're like, oh, where has it all gone wrong? I mean, basically two wingers playing as your centre block, which really exposes, the fact that they don't have someone like Shipshak, who plays such a big role in the attack, going in on defense. And also when they bring on someone like Jakob Holm, then they have Holm and Steins in the left wing, left side of defense, two left wingers in the center of defense. It wasn't a good look, and they are now in deep trouble in terms of holding on to a good position in that group. I would fancy Sporting and Berlin to finish ahead of them in that group, which would put PSG down to 4th place, and with some tricky games if they want to get through to Cologne. So I think their stock has dropped quite a bit. But yeah, great to have the action back in the Champions League. 3 more rounds as well, and a lot to play for over the next 3 weeks.
It's exciting. Also, Bundesliga kept rolling. European League was really fun. I think that
we're gonna have to check in on the European League properly, won't we?
we maybe that's definitely a Patreon only podcast. But Keo Melsungen playing out a draw there, which was quite exciting. A lot going on. No rest for these handball players. The drama continues, and it's going to be fun for the remainder of the season. There's a bunch more transfer rumours that we didn't touch on. I'm going to just rattle out a few that related to the teams we've talked about. Kosaradov announced to go back to Wisla Plock, so his stint in Veszprem didn't quite work out. And one of the most dramatic signings, I think, that happened over the World Championship was Hampus Vanna going to Høje Elite in Denmark. Hans Lindberg's team in just north of Copenhagen in North Zealand. That's pretty exciting. I don't know how one of the best swingers in the world is ending up in a team that's currently in the second division, but they're running away with it. And will likely be in the top league, but it's not certain. They're still, they still have to get there. But they're filled with a few former Bundesliga players and Champions League champions now. That's a lot of movement there. I think we'll leave it there for now. Thanks for joining. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, everyone.
Goodbye.